Daybreak here on the Rise News. Time for the press preview. A first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive this day, this morning. Its leading headline, NNPC road tax scheme. FEC approves additional 1.9 trillion naira to reconstruct 44 roads. Some rivals, national oil companies intervention hits 2.52 trillion naira. Federal government to procure 31 vehicles worth 1.35 billion naira for Ogoni project monitoring. OK police institutions bill. At the bottom there, I am more qualified than Peter Obi, says Kwakwanso at Chatham House. More headlines ahead of national elections. President Buhari extends IG Baba's tenure. And above the nameplate of this day this morning, Anya Kumak's 90th birthday regrets Nigeria's decline and hopeful the 2023 polls will bring change.
The Punch newspaper, fuel scarcity bites harder. Marketers blame NNPC Company Limited. It meant to sell petrol at 270 naira per litre as supply gap widens and lingers. Nigeria owes China, Japan and Germany, two others, $4.85 billion. Governor Emefiele of the central bank appeals court summons and challenges the judge. Envy stopped Abiola from emerging president. That's according to the former president Olusegun Obasanjo. And fans excited over possible Wizkid and Davido historic tour.
Let's take a look at The Guardian Nigeria. $1 billion anti-terrorism spending poses on Buhari's security success. Senior advocates question legal framework of 2023 elections. I understand Nigeria's issue, says Kwakwanso at Chatham House. And just above there, CBN allays fears over counterfeit new naira notes.
In the Tribune, Section 65 of Electoral Act, dangerous. That's according to the advocate Olanik Bekun. Federal government, states, local government shared 990 billion naira in December. Atiku campaigns in Ogun State promises power devolution and industrialization. The Inspector General of Police is not retiring at 60. He has a 4-year tenure. That's according to the Police Affairs Minister. And the Federal Executive Council okays NNPC to invest 1.9 trillion naira in 44 federal roads.
Let's take a look at some international papers. The Independent this morning revealed partner of runaway aristocrat is convicted rapist. Just below that, ex-Brexit Secretary David Davis warns back off Boris or you co-sign Tories to 10 years in the wilderness.
The Guardian, UK, nurses and ambulance staff to stage unprecedented joint strike. And what's a picture from Ukraine? Child and minister die in Ukraine helicopter crash. And the next international paper, there's more. The Financial Times, it says, dollar slides as global investors lower expectations of Fed interest rate rises. And Thiel's Founders Fund made $1.8 billion from Bitcoin before market crash.
All right, for the press review, let's bring in Emmanuel Bello, who joins us now. Emmanuel, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Good morning,
Let's take a look at this day and its leading headline this morning. It says, NNPC road tax scheme. FEC has approved an additional 1.9 trillion naira to reconstruct 44 roads. This administration has based most of their successes on their investments and improving infrastructure across the country. What's your scorecard on that?
Well, the scorecard, and that's what the government is doing these last days or last lap of its life. I mean, it's the government is looking at what is done in the past, and there are quite a lot of fact-checking also going on. The Guardian newspaper, maybe we'll come to that later, that was fact-checking what the monies already spent for security, $1 billion. But in this story, this is the story, the emphasis now is on those constructions of roads. And there are 44 roads that this amount of money will be use in reconstructing. Some people will look at this story and say, what time does this government, what time do they really have left to do all of this? But they are talking of reconstructions. So, but this also shows the role of the NNPC. The monies there used to, actually support the developmental plans or programs of government. And now they're targeting this number of roads. It's very important to do roads. One of the areas I think a lot of people want to fact check this government on is in the place of roads. And like someone say, the road to development is just that, roads. You need roads to be able to, talk about any meaningful development. So yes, in this it's dying days, this government will be looking at what they can do, what it's done before. It's a time for reflection, but it's also a time for corrections to get some things right, some things that they didn't get right. That's what it will try to do. But it's a party tool that, or it's a government tool that is going to this election with a candidate, and a lot of people will continuously talk about its records. And I think maybe that is what the president is setting out to do now, to say, look, we've done some things in the past and want to do more.
But still in this day, Emmanuel, the presidential candidate of the United People's Party, Rabiu Kwankwaso, he says, he's been speaking at Chatham House, he says he's more qualified than Peter Obi, so Nigerians should elect him. Facts or not?
Well, of course, a lot of people want to fact check that too. How is it better? How is it qualified? And Congress has actually been saying that, although this race is going clearly becoming a it looks like a three-way kind of race, with people saying that the PDP, the APC, and the Labour Party are actually in the forefront. So not much is being heard of the NNPP and its candidates, but he's always on the subject himself, talking about his ideas about running this country, and talking about what he can do, and of course always talking about his records. He's been senator, he's been minister, defense minister for that, and he's been governor, and some people will say very successful governor. So whatever these ex-governors can point to, Kwankwaso is saying, look, I can point to those things too. If you say you were doing wonders in Anambra, I was actually doing wonders too in Kano. Kano State being another very big state. Some people will say the second largest state in the country. Kwankwaso was there doing his thing. So, and he's established quite, the Kwankwasia movement in Kano State is a huge one, and with a lot of followers too, people who believe in him and his political, identity, and even what looks now like some kind of cult following for him in that sector. So I think these are the sort of thing that he tries to throw out there and say, look, I'm qualified. Now he's even saying that he's more qualified than Peter Obi. Kenneth, we're beginning to see a lot of, name calling by these candidates, actually calling out their opponents, talking to them. Tunde Bakare yesterday, for instance, was actually questioning those who said he had zero scores in the primary. So we're going to be seeing more of this kind of thing. I think that the election is at that point now where candidates are talking about each other, fact checking each other, saying, look, you are not better than me, or I'm better than you. And this makes for interesting reporting, Kenneth, don't you think?
Yeah, I think they're just doing it for fun, because most people would have decided by now who they want to vote for.
Well, you'll be shocked there are undecided voters, even now, who've not decided.
And the name calling might get them to vote for.
I don't know, but
candidates.
People actually, like you heard what Ekwa said yesterday, Kenneth, when he said, "Look, we're studying this candidate." So there are people who are still studying their men, still looking at them, still wanting to see whether there can be some kind of glimpse into their personality beyond what everyone is saying, trying to critique them, and some people even having doubts about those that seem established already. So yes, this candidate will continue to talk about themselves, they'll continue to talk about the other candidate with the hope of buying into some kind of consciousness for especially the undecided voters.
Emmanuel, there have been speculations that the Inspector General of Police, Usman Akali Baba, might retire before the election as he turns 60 in March, but Mr. President has extended his tenure. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that was done to just ensure that there's some kind of continuity in policy and in programs, especially as this IG, continuously say he wants to ensure that the force is professional. I think they would like him to put to test some of the things he keeps saying. That's why they're keeping him a little bit longer, or at least to stay until the elections are over. Some people will say, there are people who look at this and say, but why? Why do you need this particular IG there? We know the rules of the police during elections. But then government is explaining them to say, look, no, it's just for the sake of continuity and the fact that you don't really want to bring someone in now that, we have to start learning this from the scratch. Whatever it is, most Nigerians are more interested in how the police are going to behave during this election, and what the security units generally will be doing during this election. That they will be, they will protect voters, and of course stay away from meddling in what is happening.
Now, speaking of meddling, Emmanuel, the Guardian is reporting that the Obong of Calabar has been re-elected days after the Supreme Court sacked him. Meanwhile, in Edo State, 2 traditional rulers have been arrested for allegedly aiding the kidnap of some train passengers at a train station in Edo State.
Well, that's very interesting, especially that Guardian too is looking, the main story in Guardian is looking at security generally. And you can tie that, Kenneth, with what's, it's happening in Edo State, that you can see that, there's this collusion. Collusion is a word that, has been used in the past, where you have what would look like some decent people or decent institution actually supporting criminals and, aiding and abetting what they're doing. But the Guardian is actually focusing on all of that in this, special reports on security, saying, look, the money is being spent by this government, and the success is recorded in that sector. It's not, it's not aligning. If you're talking about spending 1 billion, the president was speaking in Morocco and saying he spent all that money, $1 billion on security. A lot of people saying the security is not on ground. And that, of course, yes, but while he can boast about funding, the results do not tally. That we're living the most dangerous times we have ever been, and that more people have died now in this country than even when we had when we had the civil war. So I'm sure this is a very disturbing report. The government will have to look at it. That, look, what you are spending, the money you're throwing at security is not bringing us any serious result, has not to actually bring about some better security. And if you look at the story you just told, where the Guardian is mentioning the train attack, you begin. Those are the sort of times we're living in now, that nowhere is safe. Probably just the air, but roads, nobody can travel. And the former Secretary General Anyaku, who's turned 90, is worried about that too. At 90, he should have been so happy about what has happened in this country, but he says he's saddened by the insecurity in this country, and that especially for him, road transport that used to be what everyone would do before is no longer there. So you can tie all that together and say that we're not living in the best of times, and that's why a lot of people are questioning the records of this government.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Bello. That's the press preview. Let's hear your view on all the burning issues. Follow us on Twitter at Arise TV. You can also join today's conversation using the hashtag Arise Daybreak.